I'll be talking about UBE, how to start your first case. So this is all just planning before the OR. So why UBE and why you should adopt it now? It gives us a very better visualization. There's minimal invasiveness. We are quite familiar with this anatomy, either via an open approach or via a microscopic approach. And the best thing, it is very cost effective. We can use our same set of instruments which we are using for our conventional spine surgeries. And anybody who is already practicing open or microsurgeries, this is the ideal point to transition to a endoscopic world. So educating oneself before even taking up a case. So basic prerequisite is already you should have some prior experience with the open microsurgery, or if you're an orthopedic surgeon, prior experience with the arthroscope is going to be very helpful. There are a lot of journals, there are a lot of textbooks now. This is an established technique. Very important to attend a lot of cadaveric labs, get to understand the nuances of the optics, the camera and your instruments, develop a hand-eye coordination, understand the concepts of orientation, triangulation. In your OPD also, you can just keep bone models, keep them in a closed cardboard box, make a punctures and try to orient in a dry lab in your own OPD setup also. There's a lot of surgical video libraries. Join UB groups. There are a lot of UB groups on Facebook, LinkedIn. Mentorship. It's always very important to visit somebody who is doing high volume UBE surgeries, and it is always better if you can have a mentor scrub in or who is guiding you remotely via either a video call for your first case. So I'm going to slip this slide. Everybody knows, but we have to understand in UBE that the concepts of orientation, triangulation, and the access corridor is very important, because this is basically a one-hand system. One hand is supporting your one hand is always the non-dominant hand is always going to be supporting your camera. So the camera always has to be kept quite stable, and the camera rotational movements should be avoided initially, as it can be disorienting. Triangulation. If you're not able to get an instrument in front of your camera tip, you're not going to see it, and you can't proceed ahead. And it's very important to understand how the fluid plays out in this. In a monoportal system, there is an inflow and outflow through a working channel endoscope. So the problems of fluid hydrodynamics are less, but in UBE, it is very important to ensure a seamless outflow. For that, you have to use a semitubular retractor, or you can use arthroscopic shoulder cannulas or half pipes, as a few of surgeons have previously demonstrated. I tend to sometimes, if I'm not getting a good proper outflow, I tend to make my facial incisions cruciate, which tends to improve my outflow, and always watch for a good outflow channel, like a free flowing kind of a fountain kind of thing. I tend to avoid fluid pumps. I usually keep those 3-liter saline bags at my surgeon's head height, and to prevent OT soiling, it's always advisable to use either UB specific drapes or craniotomy drapes, like our neurosurgeon colleagues use. And I tend to do it under regional anesthesia. So patients, if they are complaining of any signs of neck stiffness or any signs of raised ICT, I tend to either convert it into a dry system, or a person who is not confident can convert it into an open technique. Initially, it is always advisable to put drainage catheters to avoid a symptomatic hematoma, even if for a primary disc surgeries. What you need is either a good camera system, which is available in almost all hospitals, 0 degree or 30 degree scope, 4 mm, 17 centimeter length. This is a standard arthroscope or a ENT sinuscope or a neuroendoscope. You need a burr drill with a sheath. You need a good radio frequency system to manage your epidural bleeders. Irrigation, I tend to focus to the gravity. There are certain surgeons who use pump, but I am totally against pumps. You need a simple pen field, which will act like a root retractor also. Angled pen fields, Kerrisons, and all those general spine instruments. So the debate of 0 degree or a 30 degree, initially, if you're a neurosurgeon, probably you'll be better off with a 0 degree. But if you're an ortho surgeon and you're already doing arthroscopies, you'll be more comfortable with 30 degree. 0 degree, almost it's an end-on vision, so sometimes it can be more orienting initially for beginners. But the advice is, whatever you are using and whatever you're comfortable with, stick with that. I'm a 30 degree trained surgeon, and I'm using 30 degree for all my cases. Setting, you are going to, the surgeon is going to stand on the more symptomatic side, assistant is going to stand opposite to you. His job is to hold the UB retractor to ensure good outflow. The scrub nurse can stand alongside you. If you are just two team like a surgeon and assistant, that is also fine. Monitor comes in from opposite side of the surgeon, and the C-arm, you need an AP and a lateral view. Your ideal case should be ideally a lean guy, preferably a L4-5 paracentral disc because it's going to be dead straight down. Left side ideally for a right-handed surgeon and an interlaminar approach. It's better to avoid a central or a migrated disc in initial cases. Bleeding points which we should understand is that once you put and land over the lamina, there are going to be 3 potential bleeding points because once you're going to get lost in the tissues, they are going to be at like 7 o'clock. If it's a left-sided approach, it's going to be at 7, 8 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and at 4, 5 o'clock. And there you can just use your RF before they start bleeding. And once you start creating your sound space or the working space after doing an initial laminotomy, below the lamina, there's going to be cancellous bony bleed. And once the epidural space opens up, there's going to be a gush of epidural bleeding. Once you decompress your traversing route, axilla is a troublesome area, and lateral to the shoulder of the traversing route, once you're about to do a discectomy, there's going to be some bleeders there which you can coagulate. And bleeding control can be done with the radiofrequency probe at a very low setting. Avoid ablation, use coagulation, bone wax, Surgicel, and avoid increasing water pressure. Tear progression, start with lumbar. Better to do ipsilateral recess decompressions before discectomy because discectomy also entails a level of manipulation of the traversing route. Then gradually move on to discectomies. Then attempt your over-the-top bilateral decompressions, then venture into the paraspinal approaches like the para-UBs, and then later on start with T-lifts and gradually build it up. To sum it up, join UBE on social media, ask a lot of questions, discuss your cases, visit a UBE high-volume surgeon, orient and triangulate on bone models in your OPD or your OR, attend a lot of cadaver courses as much as you can, understand the fluid dynamics. Initially only work on left-sided cases, avoid tight stenosis. Very important to use longitudinal incisions initially because if your OR time is increasing, just connect them, put in a microscopic tubular trim or convert to open. Take multiple checks with CM, record all your cases, review and improve. If you are stuck with bleeding, control your blood pressure, keep the abdomen free. I tend to use injection tranexamic acid a lot. Radiofrequency probe, Surgicel, bone wax. I also use cottonoids, gel foam flow seals. I don't have any experience. But if significant dural tears occur, there are a lot of masters now who are doing UV guided dural repairs. I have no experience in that. For my side, it is better to convert it into a dry system or a open or a microsurgical technique. But for smaller tears, I have escaped by putting just small fat graft and covering it with a layer of taco seal or gel foam. So I thank you very much.